Little rain in the 504 this morning pushed the Saints indoors. They still got their work in. Sharief Ishaq was there. He joins us now from Metri. Sharief Ishaq of WDSU. Sharief, how are you, sir?
I'm well. I feel nice and cool because I have to stay inside the whole time. I like that. I don't have to be in the heat.
I saw you with an umbrella on your head last week. How was that? Where would you get that fashion inspiration?
I've been doing it since 2017.
Okay.
I usually bring it out for the first day when the fans come to practice. So Saturday was the first day. It
All
always
right.
protects my bald, receding hairline.
Well, you really looked great out there. Any cause for concern with Tyrann Mathieu not being at practice?
Well, Dennis Allen said yesterday that they haven't reached that point yet. I don't know how many more practices he would have to miss before reaching that point, but I assume that at least he has his book with him and he's studying the plays. And he said that they would welcome him back with open arms. But if he misses another week or so, I think I'd be a little more concerned because you're worried about, building that team chemistry and the communication aspect of the secondary if he continues to be missing for much longer.
What does the safety spot look like without him right now?
I think they look solid with P.J. Williams playing back there, and you have Marcus May. Marcus May has shined so far in this camp. He's coming off that Achilles injury. He's looked, good. He comes out of his breaks good, making plays at the ball, and I think he looks strong for a person who had an Achilles tear.
How great was it for Saints fans to see Mike Thomas back out there running routes and being back in the fold?
Well, I'll be the first one to say I thought it would take a week, and it only took one day for him to get back out there. He hasn't been participating in full drills just yet. I think they're just trying to ease him back into things. But I think they were just pumped to just know that he was practicing the first day. That's all they wanted to know, that he'd get back quickly. But they're being pretty responsible with them and being smart, getting him acclimated back into the offense and making sure they don't have any setbacks. And he's looked really good up to this point. And there were 6 practices in.
We were talking to Luke Johnson last week, and he was kind of raving about he was saying that the Saints staff really has high hopes for Pete Werner, and obviously he was being eased into camp, but he was out there today.
He was out there. He did a little bit of 7-on-7 drills, didn't participate in full team drills, but he mentioned that he was dealing with a groin issue and that he thinks, he's not 100% just yet, but if they played in a month, which they will, like it's 5 weeks from now, he said he'd be 100% ready to go next to Demario Davis.
Give me the Jameis Winston report through a week.
I'll give you today's report. He had his best practice so far. I would say this is the best one. He was 10 of 11, threw an absolute dime 50 yards down the field to Deontay Hardy for a touchdown, getting behind the defense, made some good reads. He scrambled a few times and made a couple good throws scrambling the ball, found Chris Olave once and then a couple other guys the other time moving out of the pocket. So this was his best practice, 6 practices in. I know some people were concerned last week when he threw back-to-back interceptions and 7-on-7 drills, 7-on-7 drills, and it wasn't pretty, but this was his best practice. He moved the chains quite a bit during team drills, but just one missed pass, and it was a good play by, the star so far of this camp, Paulson Adebo, who just continues to shine.
I know it's sunshine and rainbow season, especially for a lot of Saints fans, but going out and being around the team since they've started camp, is there anything you feel better about from watching the team being out there?
I would think so, yeah, because it just seems like they're getting better and better each practice at, certain positions. And today's was Jameis's best practice. The most important player that, you want to make sure that your most important player continues to have, better practices coming off that injury. And, yeah, I would say the sunshine is shining a little bit more today on Jameis than he did the first 5 practices. And overall, it's been a good practice. The defense has, training camp. They've done a lot of good things throughout this training camp. You got to think this is done without Marcus Davenport, a defensive tackle, Pete Werner at linebacker, and Tyrann Mathieu, your safety. If they're playing this well without those 3 guys, just imagine what it's going to be like whenever they have all their guys on that defense.
Yesterday we learned Alvin Kamara's court date pushed back about 60 days, 2 months or so. What does that mean?
It means that they continue to kick the can down the road. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens again whenever they get to September 29th and they say, hey, we need more time, or they just set another court date and they don't have a decision then yet. And the NFL can't do anything until they have a ruling from the court system. So that's the thing. That's the problem they're dealing with. So that would mean the Saints are going to have him for at least the first 4 games of the season. That gets them to London. That court date seems to be happening right around the time they're in London, and I assume he may not have to be there for that either. So that means he will get to play in that game. So at least they start off the season in good shape, having their star running back.
Yeah, I mean, if you have him there and then you have Ingram, who do you think right now is third on that list?
I mean, Von Zigbo's looked good to me. I really think he's looked pretty good to me. The one that hasn't looked all that great, and I thought I'd see a little bit more, is Malcolm Brown. But the sleeper would be Abram Smith from Baylor.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be shocked if he found his way to make the 53-man roster. He's done some good things in this camp, and they're going to need somebody. They're going to need another able body in case something does happen with one of the two 1-2 punch, thunder and lightning, whether it's suspension or an injury. They just need a third back to step up.
Watching a lot of the highlights from Saints camp, you see Jameis making some big, attempts down the field and hitting some receivers down the field. Do you think Coach Carmichael and the rest of this offensive staff kind of has that envisioned for him, or do you think they're going to kind of go back to what they were doing last year and kind of keep those throwing attempts down and try to run the ball more?
No, I think they're going to unleash him a little bit more this year. I mean, he's had now an extra off season to get involved in T. Carmichael's playbook and understand what's going on. I think they're not going to force it. They're not going to tell him, hey man, go out there and just throw the ball down the field two out of the three times we have the ball here on the for one of the first possessions. I think they're going to work him. I think they're going to ask him to go through his reads, and that's something you saw today. He went through a bunch of his reads before launching any of his passes, and that's a good thing. You can see his head scanning the field, and I think that's all they ask of him, is to scan the field, make good decisions, and they made those very good decisions. If it wasn't for a beautiful play by Paulson Adebo, he'd have been 11 of 11. So I think that you're going to see a lot more airing it out, though. You will see, especially if Deontay Hardy and Chris Olave get behind the defenses like you've seen a few times in camp so far, that's going to be troublesome for some of those secondaries they're going against.
Sharief Ishaq, WDSU, my Twitter feed, your interview, all coming up. Paulson Adebo. Where does he fit in right now?
I mean, he's the opposite cornerback of Marshawn Lattimore. Physical. He's a little bit different from last training camp to this training camp. You could see that the physical aspect of his game has improved tremendously. Off the line, he jams receivers, using his hands well. I mean, and he's redirecting receivers' routes at the line, and even keeps up with them, pace for pace, and makes the good plays. Doesn't really make many, mistakes whenever he's stride for stride with a receiver. Not really pulling on jerseys much, so he's making clean plays down the field that wouldn't get called as DPIs, and that's the most impressive thing, that he's actually making clean plays for the ball, and it has been consistent. It has not dropped off the first 6 practices, and that's something every Saints fan and even the co-defensive coordinator should be excited about as they move towards the season, is to have that 1-2 punch of Marshawn and Paulson Adebo. And that just goes to show you the scouting department knows what they're doing when it comes to finding hidden gems, a third rounder who probably can be a late first rounder. So that's something encouraging as they moves into his second season.
We found out today that the Miami Dolphins were guilty of tampering with Tom Brady as well as Sean Payton when he was still under contract with the New Orleans Saints. Any reaction to that news down there in New Orleans today?
Can't wait for the Saints to get that first-round pick from the Miami Dolphins. That's how it should work, right?
I don't think that's quite how it's going to work. But what's the consensus? I mean, I know y'all know Sean really, really well. He had a great relationship at the end there with the media. Do you expect him to jump back in after this season? And obviously the Saints would be compensated if that becomes the case.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. Coaches like that who are very, very into being a coach and into being into the grind have a hard time staying out of the game that long. I just think he's going to get really hungry watching football this year and just getting bored just being on TV, and he's going to be I could still do this, Maybe it's the Chargers. Maybe it's the Cowboys. I think Saints fans would absolutely lose their minds if it's the Cowboys. And maybe he lands in a spot, but that compensation is going to be nice and pretty. Just think about what John Gruden got when he was traded. I think you're going to see something even, and that was 20 years ago.
Yep.
So I think that Sean Payton returns something even more because he's a lot to offer.
Oh, our Citizens Bank poll question today is: should fans boo their home team? And I think for me, that's a great question to ask. Do you think if Sean decides to go coach for another team and they're playing in the Superdome, do you think the fans are going to yell out some boo birds?
If it depends on the team. If it's like the Los Angeles Chargers, I think, you don't hear any boo birds. But if it's the team that the Saints hate more behind the Atlanta Falcons, the Cowboys, yeah, you're going to have some boo birds. I mean, they appreciate what he's done for this city and he did for this franchise. But I think naturally, I think they would be mad if he went to the Dallas Cowboys, especially after all the times you kept hearing reports of him, turning him down and not wanting to go there.
Sharief Ishaq, WDSU down there with the Saints. We'll do it again next week, Sharief. Thanks.
Thanks so much for watching Hunt Hill on YouTube.
Now do us a favor. Hit the red subscribe button below and throw us a like. See you next time.